What's up, guys? It is early. I got back last night from Illinois. You'll hear the cooler in the back. Got back last night from Illinois from scouting pretty hard for 4 or 5 days. I think I got in a little before 10. Took a shower, put a few things up, not all of my stuff, and got in bed. Headed back turkey hunting this morning. It's only about the 3rd time I've been this season, but I went a little over a week ago to this place. It was the first time I'd been there, and usually there's a few birds either on the property or close by, and got in there. I was trying to get up high to listen to see if I could pinpoint where they were coming from, and got up to the highest point, or almost to the highest point on the property, and looked up in the trees, and there was turkeys, and tried to back out, go around, and run into more turkeys. One of them actually saw me, so I just had to set up immediately. Ended up being a tom was roosted about 20 yards from me, and he pitched down and probably had about 5 hens or something, and they moved off. He strutted up there about 40 yards. I didn't quite have a shot. And once they got out of sight, I made a move on him and called him in, and could have killed him, but I couldn't see him on the camera. And then there was a couple times I could see him on the camera, but couldn't shoot him. So ended up calling him back in twice. He wouldn't come all the way in. He hung up about 30 yards. Once he got eyesight on where that sound was coming from, he didn't see a turkey, and he wouldn't come in. So I'm going to go in a different way, and I'm hoping that they're still roosted up high. If not, and they're roosted down low, I'm going to be screwed again. So I'm trying to get there just a little bit earlier. It's about 5:30. I think it gets daylight, or I think sunrise is 6:45, so it gets daylight, you know, a little after 6 probably. So we're going to try and get in here. So it's not too long of a walk, but I am taking the long way around to try and get in on these birds and hopefully not be right underneath them. I hate that. Like, anytime I've ever been set up right underneath them, it's never worked out for me. So maybe we'll get lucky. I hope he's still in here, and I hope he hasn't been killed. There's a little bit of pressure around. What was surprising is there's only one bird. Generally there's a couple, so at least a couple, but who knows. We'll find out in about 45 minutes whether they're in there. See you later. Well, for whatever reason, I think those turkeys are out of here. I haven't heard a single gobble. Well, I heard 2 way across the road, but I don't know. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, that surprised the heck out of me that those birds are just gone. It was a pretty small flock. There was only 1 tom and probably 5 or 6 hens, but I don't know what happened in like 8 or 9 days, but looked like the neighbor had been up there chopping some firewood, so I don't know if they come back to roost one evening and he spooked them or what, but I was expecting at the worst to hear them gobbling, you know, 300-400 yards away in this corner that they've gobbled in the past. But the only one I heard was probably 1,000 yards away across the road here. So I don't know. It's so early. It's 7:30. I'm going to scoot down here to a small piece of public and see if there's anybody in there. If there's nobody in there, we may just do a walkthrough of it, call a little bit, and see if we can hear something. There's generally some birds in or around that spot, but season's been open for a while, so I'm sure they've gotten hit pretty hard. So we're going to at least do it since it's 7:30. You know, I've got some time, and then we'll probably go home, take a nap, and then get the vehicle cleaned up, get my camping stuff cleaned up and put away. So got a lot of stuff I need to do, but I didn't quite get the turkey fix this morning. I didn't even hear a gobble, and that's probably the first time I've ever hunted there and never heard and didn't hear a gobble, at least somewhat close. So hopefully there won't be anybody on the public. It's a Tuesday eve or morning, so I wouldn't think too many people would be out. So we'll know here in just a few minutes. Well, believe it or not, there wasn't anybody here. Now, that said, I don't expect to have any huntable birds in here. When I've turkey hunted in the past, I've heard gobbles on the roost, but they're usually always on private. And very rarely do they come on this piece of public. But you don't know how many people's been hunting, or if anybody's been hunting. I'm sure they have. We'll see. We're at least getting to walk around and maybe do a little scouting, if nothing else. Once I get to the top of the hill, I'm gonna call a couple times, see if we can get anything. And then if not, I'm gonna ease out the top of this ridge, see if I can find any scratching or hear any birds. Who knows? Wish us luck. I didn't get a response to my call, but one just gobbled to that plane you hear going over, and it sounded like it was down over here. I hope that's the case, because it's nothing but public that way. I'm gonna ease up here to the edge and just see if I can get him to respond and get a better pin on where he's at. He answered. He's down over here. I'm gonna drop off the side over here on the downhill side and get down. God, I cannot believe that worked. He's on 100% public, and there's a lake on the other side of it. I mean, there's a little bit of private down here, but not much. I'll try and get between him and that private. I was not expecting that. He wasn't that far, maybe 150 yards. I'm gonna shut up and get quiet here, see if I can ease out through here. There's a bunch of scratching. There's a bunch of scratching in here. It's not super fresh, but it's not old either. Try and get up here just a little bit further. He's still a little ways down through here. Let's see if we can get him one more time, get an idea. He's a good ways down through there still. Sounds like he's moving. This turkey's moving. He's not just standing there strutting. He's fired up. I'm gonna turn this camera off until I can get set up. I need to be getting set up somewhere. I'll just set up right here at this dead tree. I'll have the sun at my back. That should work. Come on. thought they were coming. Well, looks like that bird boogered or something. He must have not have, I don't know if he just caught a glimpse of me, which I don't doubt, or just the calling, I don't know, but he gobbled at one time at that boat going down the lake, and it sounded like he was moving this way across the road, and so I backed out, circled around him, and was going down the gravel road, and a guy come up from behind me walking a dog. So I'm hoping to maybe get lucky and he'll just randomly gobble here mid-morning. But that road runs down at the bottom of the ridge down near the lake, and I'm sure that guy walked the dog all the way out it. So if he was on this side of the road, the opposite side I was on earlier, he probably pushed him up towards the top of the ridge. So I'm walking out the top of this ridge. There's a place out here I've seen turkeys a lot in the past. I'm just going to kind of go slow and listen. My gut kind of tells me that he probably stayed over there where he was at before. But the problem with this is if I go all the way out through here, probably won't be able to hear him gobble if he does gobble over here. But I'm gonna see if I can find some real fresh scratching out through here at the top of this ridge. I may just sit down for a while, see if I can hear a gobble, and then go from there. He got really fired up. Hopefully my audio's good. Last time I went hunting, there was some kind of interference with the microphone when the birds were gobbling real good. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. I just need to get lucky. I don't know if he had hens. He was coming and he came in to probably 30 yards, but I had to set up on the backside of a little crest because I felt like if I crested that hill he'd be able to see me, and he just wouldn't pop over it. And then I guess the call maybe got too aggressive on calls or something, but fired up as he was, I wanted to try and keep him going. Maybe he'll get fired up again. Maybe he had hens and hens will go to their nest or something. I don't know. We're gonna keep easing up through here. Probably sit down somewhere at some point just so we can listen for a while. I wouldn't rule out a nap either. Well, we got beat to the spot. I guess I'm gonna go to the private piece, even though there wasn't any birds there last time. Maybe something's changed. I'll come back over here and check midday. Alright guys, well, turkey hunting was an absolute bust. I didn't have any footage, no turkeys. The guys were on public land, the place I wanted to go. So I just kind of let them be. But I come over here to my food plot, and you might be able to see the tall stuff sticking up back there. That was a plot screen I used last year. It did fantastic. But this year I'm gonna move it back this way some, because there's some really good fertile ground right there where it's at. And I want to make the back part of the plot bigger. That's where our stand is and stuff. So today, it's about 1 o'clock. I'm going to put in a few hours here, but I'm going to try and, at the minimum, get as much of this grass and stuff weed eated down. I don't have a mower I can use in here. And you can see it's tall. I mean, I need to get it sprayed bad too. But at a minimum, I want to get where I'm going to put the new plot screen weed eated. I want to get the old plot screen cleared off, and then as much sprayed as I can. At a minimum, I want to get where the plot screen is going to go sprayed. But let's go for a little tour here. Let me close these legs up. So you can see we got a lot of this grass coming up. In the last few years, I've been trying to plant this food plot in the spring. Well, last year I put a lot of time into it trying to get it planted in the spring, and it just stays too wet. As you can see, got a ridge here, ridge here. Those are steep ridges back there. So in the spring, when we're getting a lot of rain, there's a lot of runoff, and it just doesn't work well. But in the fall, it's perfect. Stuff grows great. You can see I got some clover still making it. This end of the plot really didn't do anything last year. It was kind of a new addition. You can see we got some clover in here, pretty decent. I originally tried to get this in corn, and it come up, but it got torn down by bears. See, decent clover. So I'm gonna try and hack all this grass off to the top of the clover and spray it. I'm gonna get all these stalks down and then get this plot screen cleaned off. Let's see. This is what's left of the plot screen. Some of it's gonna have to be just hit with a weed eater real easily, but it's gonna come down pretty easy. But if I can get it all weed eated, and cleaned out, I might broadcast some clover in here. I know it's a little late for it, but if you'll see, this high side always does good. I've got some sort of leftover brassica. I can just tell by the leaves that's sprouting and growing big. So I need to get all this killed off. And if you'll notice, this is the part I was talking about where it stays wet. You can see this ground. I'll see if I still have some video of what this part of the plot looked like in the fall when it's dried out. It looks great. I mean, it was just lush, brassicas up knee high. So right now you can see it's pretty barren. You can see some radishes and turnips in here. That's all gonna decay down before I plant it this fall. Work with some good fertilizer. But you might be able to see there's some red, that's the tree stand that I killed that doe out of, and Logan killed his doe out of, and then we popped up a blind inside that shed. Worked out great. So I'm gonna get after it here. I'm gonna weed eat as much of this stuff and kill it. I'm probably just gonna like half strength on some Roundup. I've sprayed clover with that before, with like half strength Roundup, and it'll wilt it, but it'll come back. This is just barren. This is the part I'll probably broadcast a little something on just to see if something will stay here through the summer. But everything's greened up now. There's browse everywhere. Look at this turnip. They're just everywhere. These deer did not eat any of those brassicas, any of the turnips, radishes. Grass is so tall. Grass is so tall it's getting caught on my tripod. The deer didn't eat any of it. Any of those bulbed plants didn't eat any. They love clover though, so I should have a pretty good seed bed of clover when I go to till it under again. But this fall I'm gonna plant clover, about 3 different kinds. I'm gonna plant some rape, because I've had good experience with that before on deer that wouldn't eat the clover, or I mean eat the radishes and turnips. They'll eat the rape, and I may add in some oats or something. My goal is to have a good stand of clover the next fall, or the next spring, just a little bit, which I have now. It worked out pretty good. It's just this property stays so wet in here. You can't do much with it in the spring. But you can't see it right now because it's so green. There's a tree stand up here that's on the property line. It's the neighbor's. So I think what I'm going to do with the plot screen, it grows 10 foot tall at least. I'm going to run it down the right side right here, all the way down this side, and then I'm going to run it right here in the beginning, pretty deep, maybe, I don't know, 15 yards deep, and maybe down the left side. I haven't decided yet, but it did really good last year. So we're going to get to work. It's hot. It's supposed to be 86 today. Hopefully I don't have a heat stroke. We'll see you later.